Nathan had warned that the sword would never depart from David's house. The consequences of the king's sin would unfold within his own family. What David had done in secret would be answered in public. The first blow fell when Amnon, David's firstborn son, violated his half-sister Tamar. Amnon was the crown prince, heir to the throne. Tamar was the beautiful daughter of David and Maacah. Amnon became obsessed with her. He made himself ill with frustrated desire. His cousin Jonadab, described as a shrewd man, noticed Amnon's condition and devised a scheme. Pretend to be sick. Ask your father to send Tamar to care for you. Amnon followed the plan. David sent Tamar to prepare food for her sick brother. When they were alone, Amnon seized her. She pleaded with him, "Do not do this wicked thing. Where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you." But Amnon would not listen. He violated her. Then something shifted in Amnon. The desire that had consumed him turned to hatred. He hated her with an intense hatred greater than the love he had felt. "Get up and get out," he said. Tamar protested. "Sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you have already done to me." But he refused to listen. He called his servant and said, "Get this woman out of my sight and bolt the door after her." Tamar was thrown out. She put ashes on her head and tore the ornate robe she was wearing, the robe that marked her as a virgin daughter of the king. She went away weeping aloud. Her brother Absalom found her. "Has that Amnon your brother been with you? Be quiet for now, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this thing to heart." Tamar lived in her brother Absalom's house, a desolate woman. In that culture, her future had been destroyed. She could not marry. She would bear no children. She would live the rest of her life in the shadow of what had been done to her, ruined by her own brother, abandoned by her father's silence. When King David heard all this, he was furious. But he did nothing. Perhaps David's own guilt paralyzed him. How could he punish his son for taking a woman who was not his when David had done the same? How could he demand justice when he had murdered to cover his own transgression? Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. But he hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. 2 years passed. The hatred simmered. Then Absalom prepared a feast for sheep-shearing and invited all the king's sons. He specifically asked for Amnon to attend. David hesitated, but eventually agreed to send his sons. Absalom ordered his men, "Listen, when Amnon is in high spirits from drinking wine, and I say to you, 'Strike Amnon down,' then kill him. Do not be afraid. Have I not given you this order? Be strong and brave." Absalom's men did as he ordered. They struck down Amnon. All the king's sons got up, mounted their mules, and fled. A rumor reached David first, a false report that Absalom had killed all the king's sons. David tore his clothes and lay on the ground. His attendants did the same. But Jonadab, the same shrewd cousin who had helped Amnon devise his scheme, spoke up. "My lord should not think that all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead. This has been Absalom's plan since the day Amnon violated his sister Tamar." Soon the surviving sons returned, weeping. David wept with them. Absalom fled to Geshur, to his mother's father, the king there. He stayed 3 years. David mourned for his son every day. But the text is ambiguous. Was it Amnon he mourned, or Absalom? Eventually, through the intervention of Joab and a wise woman from Tekoa, David allowed Absalom to return to Jerusalem. But he refused to see him face to face. For 2 years Absalom lived in Jerusalem without seeing the king. Finally, after Absalom forced Joab's attention by setting his field on fire, David summoned his son. Absalom came and bowed with his face to the ground. The king kissed him. But reconciliation was incomplete. Something had broken between father and son that could not be mended. Absalom began to position himself as an alternative to his father. He acquired a chariot and horses, with 50 men to run ahead of him, the trappings of royalty, a visible claim to the throne. He would rise early and stand by the side of the road leading to the city gate. Whenever anyone came with a complaint to be placed before the king for a decision, Absalom would call out, "What town are you from?" When they answered, Absalom would say, "Look, your claims are valid and proper, but there is no representative of the king to hear you. If only I were appointed judge in the land, then everyone who has a complaint or case could come to me and I would see that they receive justice." This was not mere vanity. It was a calculated political strategy. Absalom positioned himself as the answer to a real failure in David's administration. Justice delayed, petitions unanswered, the concerns of the common people neglected while the king aged in his palace. Whether the critique was fair or exaggerated, it resonated. People who felt forgotten by David saw in Absalom someone who would listen. Whenever anyone approached to bow before him, Absalom would reach out, take their hand, and kiss them, treating commoners as equals, something a distant king would never do. He stole the hearts of the people of Israel. After 4 years of this campaign, Absalom asked permission to go to Hebron to fulfill a vow he had made to the Lord. David gave his blessing. But it was a lie. Absalom sent secret messengers throughout the tribes of Israel. As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpets, then say, "Absalom is king in Hebron." 200 men from Jerusalem went with Absalom. They had been invited as guests and went quite innocently, knowing nothing about the conspiracy. Absalom sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, to come from his hometown. The conspiracy gained strength, and Absalom's following kept increasing. A messenger came to David. "The hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom." David's response was immediate. "Come, we must flee, or none of us will escape from Absalom. We must leave immediately, or he will move quickly to overtake us and bring ruin on us and put the city to the sword." The king who had conquered Jerusalem now fled from it. David left with his entire household, leaving behind 10 concubines to take care of the palace. All his men marched out with him, his officials, his bodyguard, and 600 loyal warriors who had followed him from Gath. David stopped at a place some distance from the city. All the people marched past him, Kerethites, Pelethites, and Gittites. He told Ittai the Gittite, "Why should you come along with us? Go back. You are a foreigner, an exile from your homeland. You came only yesterday, and today shall I make you wander about with us when I do not know where I am going? Go back." But Ittai answered, "As surely as the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether it means life or death, there will your servant be." David said, "Go ahead, march on." The whole countryside wept aloud as all the people passed by. David went up the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. His head was covered and he was barefoot. All the people with him covered their heads too, and were weeping as they went up. It had been decades since David fled from a king who wanted him dead. Then it was Saul, now it was his own son. When David reached the summit where people used to worship God, Hushai the Archite was there to meet him, his robe torn and dust on his head. David sent Hushai back to Jerusalem as a spy, to frustrate the counsel of Ahithophel. He continued east, crossing the Jordan, moving away from the city he loved toward an uncertain future. Behind him, Absalom entered Jerusalem. Ahithophel advised, "Sleep with your father's concubines, whom he left to take care of the palace. Then all Israel will hear that you have made yourself obnoxious to your father, and the hands of everyone with you will be more resolute." So they pitched a tent on the roof of the palace, and in the sight of all Israel, Absalom slept with his father's concubines. What David had done in secret was now answered in the open, just as Nathan had prophesied. The sword had entered David's house, and it would not leave. In the next episode, we will witness the final battle between father and son and David's heartbreaking cry over his fallen child. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing and sharing.